next shading of the eye. Now, of course, you can just look at the shading that's there and follow what you see. That would be the expectation. But for some reason, we get to shading and we skip parts. So like some of the obvious things that we'll see is the shading up here, and that it gets really dark in the crease of the eyelid. And then I started to do the eyebrow and I decided to stop. I mean, I was doing it off camera. So anyway, when you're checking out these eyebrow hairs, notice how they change direction. They're not all going the exact same way. And you can switch back and forth between pencils. I'm working sometimes with a number 2 and sometimes with the ebony. And I'm only using the ebony when I want to get really dark. Otherwise, I'm using the number 2 for the light and anything that I want to erase. And notice I'm keeping my left finger over here on the drawing. That's partly to keep me organized so I know where I'm looking back and forth. For me, it really seems to help. Okay, and then when you get into the eyeball itself, there's a lot of people who know that, yeah, I gotta color the iris because it's darker than the white of the eye. And then there's going to be a little bit of a shadow cast from the eyelid itself. I mean, it does stick out a little bit from the eye. And if you put that in, that's going to start to give it some dimension. Now, what some people will miss is that the whites of the eyes have shading. And part of that is because our brain calls it the whites of the eyes, so we think, oh, we gotta leave it white. But it's not white of the paper. And the eyeball is a sphere, so as it curves away from us and catches less light, it's going to get shaded in just a little bit. And depending on the actual lighting of the eye, your white of the eye could be like have a little bit of tone across the whole thing. But if you start shading in the corners like you see in here and up along the edge of the eyelid, you're going to give that eyeball more dimension and it'll become more like a sphere than a screaming white thing. As those whites can really come out at you. And then the eyelashes down here, there's only a few that are showing, and I haven't finished shading everything. I'm kind of skipping ahead to keep the video short. And I'm not going to count, but I don't want to put in too many, I don't want to put in too much, I don't want it to look like train tracks or stitches. Each little eyelash is going to have its direction, and the eyelashes actually radiate. So the ones on the edge will be at one level, and then they start to look almost like they're coming from the center of the eye, almost. So they're going to change direction as they go around the eyelid itself. Anyway, I could keep shading on this, and I probably will, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the video so that you can get to work.